ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Blake and Isaac Show, B&I Show, B&I. We don't exactly have a name yet, but I am your current host, Blake. I am known as @ChatMyKirk on Twitter and BTownBomb on Reddit. And my co-hosts, once again, we have Isaac with us. He is known as Shut Up Isaac _ on Twitter, and Shut Up Isaac on Reddit. How you doing, Isaac?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad myself. Not very many things on the docket for us this afternoon. I haven't heard of very many injuries or very many acquisitions, player personnel movements. We'll begin with a quick rundown of the past 3 stars of the week.
All right, so the past 3 stars of the week were Patrick Kane of the Chicago Blackhawks, Tyler Seguin of the Dallas Stars, and Mike Condon of the Montreal Canadiens.
Mike Condon, that's the one of the 3 that intrigues me the more, because Montreal is they're starting to build goaltending depth. Of course, Carey Price, the great Carey Price, with his amazing stats that he posts year in and year out. But now it looks like they have a pretty serviceable backup in Condon.
Yeah, they do, because he went into Montreal training camp as the third goalie, as Karski was looking to be back up again, and most Habs fans didn't have a problem with that. But he, I don't want to say overperformed, but he outplayed Karski, who underperformed in training camp and preseason, so Montreal had to send down Tokarski and have Condon be the backup this season, and he's proven that he is more than capable of doing that.
And do you have stats, weekly stats for the 3 stars?
Right here, I do not. I just know that Mike Condon was very good.
Yes. And Seguin and Kane, of course. Patrick Kane now, I believe he's leading the NHL in goal scoring at the moment. And Tyler Seguin, of course, one of the key reasons why the Dallas Stars are one of the hottest teams in the league right now.
Well, Tyler Seguin and everyone else.
Everyone else, yes. Jamie Benn as well, and they're starting to get more secondary scoring as well, it seems. And once again, no major injuries to discuss, I don't believe. No player movements. The one minor one looks like Blues legend Marty Havlat will no longer be with the Blues. He requested departure from the team due to personal reasons, and he was placed on unconditional waivers just the other day. Played 2 games with the Blues during the past road trip. Scored a goal against his former club, the New Jersey Devils. And 36 is not a number that's worn very often in St. Louis, so I say we retire the great Marty Havlat's number. How about that?
Wait. I thought Gunnarsson was wearing 36. That's what he wore in Toronto.
He is number 4, I believe, in St. Louis.
It's weird.
I'm going to double check on that. Forwards, defenseman. Yes, Carl Gunnarsson is number 4.
Well, that's strange.
That is strange. That's a big difference. 36 to 4. That is strange. That's a big difference. But Marty Havlat, after 2 games with the Blues, he has been placed on unconditional waivers, and who knows where he'll be going next, if he'll be going anywhere at all next.
If you had to ask me, I'd say his career is over. It'd probably be similar to what happened last season with Simon Gagne and the Bruins. where he signed on kind of late. Well, he signed on after preseason, so not late, but he signed with the Bruins, played a couple of games, and then left for personal reasons.
And a quick correction, 36 is not Marty Havlat's number. Oh, I should have known this. 36 is worn by Troy Brower at the moment. Havlat wore number 29.
Yeah, 36-29, same number.
Yes. Not too big of a difference there, I don't think. And that's the only excuse me, that's the only player movement I know of off the top of my head. I don't believe there's been any other major ones, any other major injury reports. So the three players.
Yeah.
Oh yes, go ahead.
Other than the Ducks calling up Nick Ritchie this afternoon, and the Canucks calling up Hunter Shinkaruk, there haven't really been many notable call-ups and send-downs this week. But around the league, Gabriel Landeskog of the Colorado Avalanche has been suspended 2 games.
Oh yes.
A hit on Brad Marchand of the Boston Bruins. Blake, how do you feel about that?
Landeskog, he's been rather. I've heard the term low-key dirty thrown around. Low-key in terms of outside the Central Division. I do believe most Central Division teams are well aware of his chippiness as of late.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get to watch the Central enough, so I don't know. I've heard between him and Ben, those are the two of the chippiest captains in the game, in the league, that is. I don't know. From what I've seen on the replay, 2 games looks like it's a fair amount to be given for the hit. Some fans are saying otherwise. Some fans saying it should have been more. Some saying less. Personally, I feel like 2 was reasonable. And hopefully he wisens up and doesn't do it again. On the same play, though, Brad Marchand was fined $2,000, I believe, for sucker punching, in quotes, Gabriel Landeskog after that, because he had punched him in the face during a scrum.
Well, I admittedly have not seen a full video of that hit. So, okay. Gabriel Landeskog, the captain of the Colorado Avalanche, suspended for a pair of games after a hit on Brad Marchand of the Boston Bruins. Other than that, I don't believe there have been any other news bits of note in the league.
Well, there's been a couple. There's Teemu Pokinen was fined $2,000 for diving. Teemu Pokinen of the Detroit Red Wings. That came as a shock to most Wings fans, if not all. Many didn't. Most people around the league didn't know who was going to be fined for diving. Many assumed it was going to be Nazem Kadri, the Toronto Maple Leafs, because, why wouldn't he be? But, so Teemu Pokinen was fined $2,000 for diving. And I want to get your opinion on something here, Blake. Apparently there are rumors coming out of the Colorado Avalanche organization that Matt Duchene may be available for trade. What do you think about that?
I hear Nashville is a team that he's being connected with the most. I don't know of any other teams that are available.
I heard the Senators were in that talk there.
Interesting. I would like Matt Duchene. He's a playmaker. He's a great player. I would like him. I don't know what we'd be able to give up in exchange for him. What we would be comfortable with giving up in exchange for him. I don't think we have much of anything there. But I would like for Duchene to depart from Colorado and be able to actually make an impact on on a team that's going to be going places.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Of course, as a Leafs fan, everything is linked to the Leafs, whether you like it or not, whether it's meaningful or not. So somehow Matt Duchene has been linked to the Leafs, and I feel the same way. I'd love Matt Duchene on the team. What would we give up for him? Not a clue in the world. Apparently, if Colorado is going to be giving up Duchene, they're going to want a defenseman back, maybe multiple defensemen. So that's where it gets a gray area. That's why I think Nashville and Ottawa were linked to him, because they have a lot of defensemen there. And I'm not sure who in Ottawa that has value and is available, because Ottawa's defense isn't the greatest in the league. I could definitely see a place like Nashville giving up a defenseman to get him.
Yes, Nashville has plenty of assets to offer.
Yeah, and so the last piece of NHL news I have this week was that Justin Abdelkader of the Detroit Red Wings signed a 7-year contract extension worth $4.25 million annually.
That's a lot of years.
That is a lot of years.
Yes, but
That's a lot of years for a guy who hasn't been the greatest player.
he hadn't been the greatest, but he hadn't been the worst either, I don't think. He's been one of the more consistent players, I think, in the Detroit organization.
Yes, and I forget who it was. I want to say it was Alec that brought up that this is very similar to the David Clarkson contract. But at the time of signing the contract, David Clarkson has had the better career stats than Justin Abdelkader has had. Before last season, Abdelkader had a career high 10 goals in the NHL with 10. But last season, he had a career high with 23 goals in 71 games and 21 assists. This season, he has 4 goals, 3 assists in 16 games. So, I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of money to be giving out to a player that has only scored over 10 goals once in his NHL career. But I don't know what to make of this contract. He has some weird no trade clause structure too. According to War on Ice, he has a full no trade clause in the first 4 years of this contract. If the Wings make the playoffs, or he is not among the top 9 forwards in time on ice, the Detroit Red Wings are allowed to trade him.
Interesting. Oh, yes. And now, one last piece of news that I remembered that occurred this past week. How about the news concerning Patrick Marleau, the longtime
Right.
San Jose Shark? It's
Mhm.
being rumored that he will waive his no trade clause for 3 teams. And get this, those 3 teams, the Los Angeles Kings, the New York Rangers, and the Anaheim Ducks, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
To be honest, I think it'd be funny if Marlowe left. At the same time, it'd be good. I think it would be good for both sides, because the Sharks, their window is essentially shut after missing the playoffs last year, and it doesn't look like they're going to be making it this year. But then again, they're playing in a really weak Pacific Division, so who knows? Maybe they can pull it out and make it into the playoffs. But I think it'd be good for both sides. I feel like Marlowe would be able to go to a better team if he doesn't go to the Anaheim Ducks. But then again, I believe he signed past this year, so he would. I would bet on Anaheim being a better team next year, or even after they get Marlowe. If he goes to LA, I think LA is leading the Pacific Division right now. He'd be going to a division leader, and I feel like he'd definitely help them out. I'd be kind of angry because LA has had too many nice things already, picking up assets for cheap. And the Rangers would be a great place for him, and the Rangers would be essentially doing what they did with Marty St. Louis a couple seasons back. And it would be good for the Sharks too because, like I said, their window's closing. I feel like they need to start rebuilding. So if they're able to get rid of these guys, they're able to get rid of a Marlowe, they're able to get rid of a Joe Thornton, maybe even a Brett Burns, Pavelski, even though they just named him captain. But if you get rid of some of those guys, then it helps speed up your rebuild because a lot of those guys have a lot of value around the league. So if you can get proper value for them, it shouldn't be very hard to um, start rebuilding. Now, I say that, but at the same time, they do not have their first round pick this year. That belongs to the Boston Bruins because they had traded it to them in the Martin Jones deal. So the Sharks are weird, and I feel like it would only do them and Marlowe good if he was traded.
And San Jose, to me, has been in a rather weird situation. Mainly, they're in this situation due to the actions of their general manager, I believe. San Jose, they should have been in a rebuild a couple seasons ago, really. Their core is aging. Marlowe and Thornton and starting to become Burns a little bit. They're aging and they're not going to be able to provide the same stats that they have provided the organization for most of their careers. And they just got to get rid of them. They got to get rid of them, bring in newer players, and start the rebuild. They should have done that maybe 2 seasons ago, but they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're continuing to be in this odd situation where they have to rebuild, but they can't do it with Marlowe and Thornton and maybe even Burns at this point.
Because one thing to be bad or mediocre when you're still trying to build, but when you are a team that's trying to make the playoffs and you're bad to mediocre, it says something. And although they're fourth in the Pacific Division with 14 points, that's only better than Calgary and Edmonton, who have 13 and 12 points respectively. So when you're only 2 points up on the worst team in the division, who are the Edmonton Oilers, sans McDavid, I don't know. To me, that's like a red flag to rebuild or something's wrong. Because it's not like they have a bunch of injuries where they can blame that on. They are genuinely not very good.
That's certainly a thing to keep an eye on as we get to the trade deadline, because as they say, unless you are a Lou Lamoriello run team where there's smoke,
When there's smoke, there is Isaac getting the standings wrong. San Jose has 16 points, and they are fourth in the division. They are better than Anaheim, who has 14, Calgary has 13, and Edmonton, who has 12. They are 8 wins, 8 losses, and 0 overtime losses. So they are exactly 500. So they are, once again, I still don't think they're very good, but their stats show that they're pretty mediocre.
yes. All right. One bit of housekeeping before we get into the next segment, the Blues Week in Review. Isaac, we need a name for this show since this looks like this is going to be the hosting responsibilities of us for the next while. So the title of the show is The Blake and Isaac Show, The B&I Show, B&I. Those are my 3 nominees. And personally, I like B&I. Give us some more of that modern flair.
I mean, I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't feel one way or another about the name. Might as well just call it bandwagon Blue Jays fans.
That is true. Well, but I'm pretty sure you hopped on the Jays bandwagon probably after that trade deadline there.
Yeah.
Whereas
But
I hopped on after they beat the Rangers in the play. So you have more experience with this than I do, certainly.
yeah, but it doesn't really matter to me what this thing is called. I'm not very picky.
It is a democracy here. I do like to be democratic, but okay, BNI it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we are BNI, not the BNI show, just BNI. We we hope the listeners catch on that this is in fact a show, and it is our show. It is
Well, then we
possessed.
might as well just name it BNI Show then, if that's what you want to go with.
Huh?
Because if you want them to know it's a show, you gotta say, show in the title of the show.
Oh, that is true. And BNI sound does well. Now that I think about it, BNI does sound weird. What is this? ESPN Radio? Come on. The BNI show it is.
There it is.
Yes, the BNI show. We'll make sure to name that for the next episode. All right. And jumping into our next segment now, it is the Toronto Maple Leafs and St. Louis Blues week in review. And of course, we start with our co-host Isaac, the Toronto Maple Leafs, from the week of November. Oh gosh, I lost it. Oh, November 9 through the 15. Leafs will have played 4 games, already played 2 games, and are 2-0 so far. A 3-2 win over Dallas on Tuesday, a 2-1 shootout win over Nashville on Thursday. We'll be playing Vancouver tonight, and we'll be at the Madison Square Garden taking on the Rangers tomorrow. That's the brief overview of the Leafs week. Isaac, give us a more detailed look at how the week has gone.
So I'm actually going to start where we left off last week. So last Saturday, where they played the Capitals in Washington. In that game, before that game, on this show, if you listened to the last episode, I talked about Ovechkin needing 2 games to beat Sergei Fedorov's record of most goals scored in the NHL by a Russian player, and he almost did it. He looked dangerous all game, and he was able to score 1, thus tying the record. And then later on in the game, in the third period, I believe he scored another to break the record, like I predicted. Well, it turns out that the goal was waved off due to goaltender interference. So as it sits right now, Alexander Ovechkin is still tied for the record. That game was not very well played by the Leafs. They were able to keep it close for the most part, even keeping it a 2-1 game for them until the final 0.8 seconds, where Nicholas Backstrom was able to score and send the game to overtime. Now, when Alex Ovechkin is hungry for a record and you go into 3-on-3 overtime, you're not going to have a good time. He was dangerous. But luckily for the Leafs, he was not able to score, and they went to the shootout. Now, the shootout wasn't very good for the Leafs, as they lost that game by a score of 3-2. In my opinion, they probably shouldn't have lost, because you shouldn't be giving up goals with 0.8 seconds left in the game. But that's just my opinion. So they dropped that game, and mind you, Bernier was still injured, so they went to Reimer for the next game, which was against Dallas on the 10th of November. I have to say, though, when I was watching these games, I hate playing games in the Central Time Zone, because Eastern Metro, they usually start at 7:30 Eastern. That's perfect. But Central games start 8 or 8:30, and it's such an awkward time because you can't take naps before the game, but and you can't go to sleep at a reasonable time when they're done. So just my 2 cents, games in the Central are worse than games in the Pacific. But anyways, so for this game, Mike Babcock had made Peter Holland a regular scratch for a number of games in a row. He put him back in the lineup for this game, and he healthy scratched Brad Boys. Peter Holland responded well to this by scoring a power play goal in the first period to put the Leafs up 1-0. And I have to say, he's looked good. I feel like he's taken that healthy scratch well. And I've liked his game. I liked him since we picked him up from Anaheim 2 seasons ago. And I hope he continues to play well. But Dallas was able to tie it up in the second by a goal by Patrick Sharp. A very weak one on Reimer, which he has been known to give up at least one each game. But usually he does not give up two, but that's exactly what happened. Vernon Fiddler in the third period was skating down the right boards and launched a backhand that somehow went over the shoulder of Reimer into the net from a very bad angle, and it was a backhand. So it was two very weak goals on Reimer, and all of a sudden the Leafs are down 2-1, and everyone's freaking out. But PA Parent Ovechkin was able to tie the game up in the third period, and 4 minutes roughly after that, Jake Gardiner scored on a slap shot, and the Leafs won 3-2 over the Dallas Stars for the second time in 2 weeks, sweeping the season series. And I am so glad that we don't have to play those guys again. That leads us into Thursday's game, where we played the Nashville Predators. This was probably one of the worst games the Leafs have played all season. There was this game, and there was a game versus Detroit where we got shut out on the second game of the season that were awful by Toronto. But this one was very bad. We didn't get killed, but we should have been. It was a very boring game, too, as nothing at all happened in the first 2 periods of the game. That was until Shea Weber scored a power play goal, 2:40 into the third period to put Nashville up 1-0. And all this time, the Leafs were getting killed in their own zone. I think twice they didn't have a shot until close to 7 minutes into the period. And that's very frustrating to watch because it looked like we were watching the Randy Carlyle coached Leafs again, only this time without Phil Kessel and without any hope. But 3 minutes after that Shea Weber goal, Sean Mathias goes down the wing and feeds it to Tyler Bozak, who, I must say, has been looking pretty good without Phil Kessel this season. I don't expect his points to be anywhere near what they were a couple seasons ago, but he looks to be holding his own this season. And that's nice to see. So Bozak ties the game up, and Nashville is still killing Toronto, but somehow not scoring. And that sends us to OT again. So the Leafs were able to get a point in all 3 games this week. And the Leafs ended up winning this game in a shootout on a goal by Peter Holland, which I have to say, was a great way to respond to getting healthy scratched, and would probably keep him in the lineup for a while, which doesn't look well for Brad Boys, but you gotta play the correct people here. Now, if I had to give a player of the week here, without a doubt, I would be giving it to James Reimer because he made so many big saves in the Dallas game that really held us in the game. And even in the Nashville game, when you're getting killed in your own zone for a good chunk of the game, you need to keep your team in it, and that's exactly what he did. And he's being rewarded with that. Tonight, we play the Vancouver Canucks, and he starts his 7th straight game, which I don't think has happened since 2 seasons ago, when when Bernier went down with an injury and Reimer had to take over. So this is very good, and I love Reimer. He is my favorite Leaf, and I'm happy to see him do well. I'm happy to see the team finally getting wins under Babcock. Most Leaf fans now are complaining because they want to be tanking and they want to be losing games just in hopes of landing Austin Matthews. But I am completely okay with winning, especially with how the new lottery system is set up. Now, I talked about healthy scratching Brett Boys in place of Peter Holland, and I have to say, I do not think that's the right move. I feel like there are other people that would be better suited to be healthy scratch for at least a game or two. One of them being Byron Fraze, and I love Fraze. He was a great call up. He was a great player for the Toronto Marlies last season and this season, a limited time he played. But he barely plays any time on ice, and he only has 1 point in 10 games. But he seems to be here to stay now. And I guess I'm okay with that, but I'd prefer Brad Boys was playing. Another one would be Michael Grabner, who we traded five basically B-level prospects for to get, and he has underperformed this season. And that's very upsetting, if you ask me. But he has 2 points in 14 games, none of which are goals, both are assists. And meanwhile, while he's a regular in the lineup, Brad Boyce, who has 6 points in 13 games, is a healthy scratch. So usually I'm not one to question coaching decisions like a healthy scratch, but this one just doesn't make much sense. So like I said, tonight the Leafs play Vancouver in the ACC. It is our first time playing Vancouver this season. I'm not sure who's starting for them. I hope it's Ryan Miller because we have been able to solve Ryan Miller in the past couple of games in the ACC where he's come over. So I'm excited for that game, and I'm hoping James Jarre can have another big game. And that was the Leafs week.
Ryan Miller is indeed scheduled to start for Vancouver. It'll be Miller and Reimer, the goalie matchup tonight. Now, a follow-up question, because you mentioned in the Dallas game James Reimer having some major saves that led to the Leafs getting the win. And you also mentioned the Nashville game being the worst the Leafs have played this season, in your opinion, which, with Nashville only scoring one goal, and it leads me to believe that goaltending, again, was perhaps the brightest spot of that team from that game. So it looks to me that this week especially is when the Leafs goaltending has become the forefront and the major focus on the team. So kind of go more into detail about the Leafs goaltending, which I assume was mainly Reimer this week.
I mean, for at the start of the season, when the Leafs couldn't buy a win for their lives, there were two problems. It was special teams and goaltending. The Leafs goaltenders, mainly Bernier, because he had a good chunk of the starts, could not save anything. And people were saying they just need to get to league average. They just need to get the league average, and everything will be fine. They'll start scoring goals, and everything will work out. And Reimer came in and started giving them league average goaltending. He wasn't fantastic his first couple of games, but he was able to shut the door for the most part, and they started winning games. And each game, he has continually looked better. And I'm not one to root against anybody, but things do not look good for Jonathan Bernier as the lead star for the rest of the season. Now, this could be good for the Leafs, though, because if they feel like they can get something from Reimer, if he keeps a streak up long enough, they may be able to flip him for almost anything at the deadline. Even though the goalie market is saturated with everybody imaginable, there's a good chance you can take a team that's having some backup goalie woes and switch up. I talked last week about Carolina and maybe the Leafs interested in Cam Ward. Maybe with Reimer's play, you can convince them to take Reimer, and the Leafs would take on Ward. But like I said, Reimer's my favorite Leaf. I don't want to see him going anywhere. I hope they extend him for 13 years, 14, 15 years, and he starts every game. But things just don't look good for Burnett. He's 0-6-1 this season, I believe. So he hasn't won a single game for the Leafs. And I feel like we need to get him going. So we play a game in New York tomorrow. So I would expect him to get the start. But Babcock said at the start of the season, he said whoever plays better, I'm going to start. And even though Bernier went down with an injury, Reimer's played better. So Reimer's going to start most of the games now from here on out until Bernier takes the job over.
All right. And that will conclude the Toronto Maple Leafs week in review. And we move into the Western Conference. We move to me now with the St. Louis Blues week in review for the week of November 9 through the 15. The Blues have played 2 games, will complete their last game of the week, 3 in total. 1-1 so far. Started on Tuesday with the third of 4 road games against New Jersey. The first period didn't look very good at all, I don't think. New Jersey had a huge lead in shots after 1, and whatever chances we did have, Corey Schneider just shut him down. Though things did start to pick up a little, and we really started to get a hold of the game. And 4:57 into that period, Marty Havlat scored, assisted by Scott Gomez as well, who I think he's really been honestly, he's been a great acquisition to this team. I think the guy, he just knows how to set up. He just knows how to set up players to score some good goals there. If you remember in New Jersey last season, he and Yager were magic, and so I think Gomez has been a great addition to the team. That was his 6th point. And Magnus Payarvi also in the third period, assist by Yashkin and Petrangelo. Honestly, I wasn't a fan of Payarvi last season. When we first traded for him, I thought this was going to be a great acquisition because he was seemed to me to be one of the more highly touted prospects in the Edmonton organization at the time of the trade. But he gets his chance last season, and he just didn't impress. But now he's been called up, and I don't know. He hadn't looked too bad in these past couple games. I counted maybe 2 or 3 icings that would have been called icings against the Blues in that comeback game against Chicago, had it not been for Payarvi's amazing speed. So he was a key part in that game. And he also got a goal here against New Jersey, and he looked good most of the game as well. And, of course, Jake Allen, yet another shutout for him on this season. He stopped all 24 Devil shots, and the Blues ended up with the lead in shots, 28-24. It wasn't really a good first period. I would venture to say it may be our second worst first period of the season. Of course, behind the losing 5-2, trailing 5-2 to Chicago at the end of 1. But we go into the Madison Square Garden in New York City, face the Rangers Thursday, and This was when everything just came crashing down, it seemed. A 6-3 Rangers win, and Jake Allen was chased from the net in the first period. The Rangers jumped out to a 3-0 lead. Derek Brassard broke the shutout streak. And, you know, I just chalk up this loss. I know Isaac has been intrigued to hear what I've been saying, or to hear what I have to say from this game. But really, all I can say is we were a pseudo hot team, and we were shut down by an actual hot team. Honestly, Jake Allen is the main reason why that 3-game win streak was made possible. The offense has struggled a little bit, other than one period against Chicago. The offense hadn't had much going, whereas the Rangers, they have it all right now. They have they have one of the hottest offenses in the forward units in the league. They have Henrik Lundqvist, who always one of the best in the league, and we outshot the Rangers 34-22 in that game, and Lundqvist was amazing. And I chalked this loss down to the defense. The offense did all it could. Yashkin scored his first goal of the season, which was huge. He needed that goal big time. And I think that's a good confidence boost for him as we move along into the season. Troy Brouwer scored on the power play. The power play is sort of starting to come back to life with the return of Shattenkirk. But Lundqvist, other than that and a Tarasenko goal in the second, other than those three, just lights out. He robbed Steen so many times in that game as well. And what I chalk that loss down to is defensive play, really. The first period defense was not very good. We didn't give up an alarming amount of chances, but the chances we did give up were so bad. And that was a 6-3 loss there. And now we're at we're at home, back home now, and we're hosting the Chicago Blackhawks. This one not on NBC or NBCSN, much to the delight of Blues fans who believe in the curse of NBC, much to the delight of Blackhawks fans as well, who believe the same. And this game, I think, can be completely different than the first game. It can go either way. Because now, in the last game, neither team had their number one defenseman because they were both out to injury. But now, the Blues have Shattenkirk back, and the Blackhawks will now have Duncan Keith back in the lineup. So adding that, it's just going to be a completely different, a whole new dynamic added into this game. And I don't think you'll see. I think you'll actually see a more exciting game than the last one last week. And unless Isaac has any follow-ups, that's the Blues week in review, a very quick week in review.
I have a question about Pajärvi, because he was really good his first season in Edmonton, and followed up with a mediocre season, got traded to St. Louis and part of the Perron deal. And from what I've seen, he's been very up and down in the NHL to AHL sense and the actual playing sense. So what's wrong with him?
You know, I really have no idea. And that is a good way to put it. He has been very up and down. He has had some great moments, as he has had the in that Chicago game and in that game against the Devils, but it's certainly really odd what's going on with him. I'm sure a lot of people in Edmonton, a few people in St. Louis expected him to I guess expected him to be close to what Dmitry Ashkin is right now.
I see.
All right. And with that, we conclude the weeks in review. We conclude the NHL Quick Hit section. We now head into games. Lots of games for
Whoa.
last night. Once again, plenty more games for tonight. And we begin, though, with an update. It was myself and Isaac's first week to compete in our pick'em, and Isaac has the results of how we did in the last week.
So last week, we'll start in order here. So there was St. Louis Blues taking on the Nashville Predators. Blake chose the St. Louis Blues to win, and I chose the Nashville Predators to win. Well, St. Louis Blues ended up winning for a change, so that was a
Oh
thing.
my goodness, let me tell you, Jake Allen was monster in that game as well. Nashville put up 45 shots in that game, and Jake Allen stopped all of them.
Carolina played Ottawa. Blake chose Ottawa. I chose Carolina because Ottawa is literally the worst. And Carolina won that game.
That was an awesome game, too. Jeff
While we were
Skinner
making the
scored.
predictions, LA was playing Florida, and LA was winning at the time, so both of us chose LA, and LA later went on to win that game.
4-1.
Montreal played Boston, and both of us chose Montreal, who ended up winning that game. That was a very good game. Washington played Toronto. Blake chose Washington, and I chose Toronto as my upset pick of the week. Washington ended up winning that game, like I said in my recap. So right now the score is 2-1 Blake.
Now you know how it feels to pick Toronto as the upset pick. Yes.
Winnipeg and Philly played each other. Both of us chose Winnipeg, but Philadelphia won that. Similar story with Minnesota and Tampa Bay. Both of us chose Tampa, but Minnesota won that game. The Rangers played the Coyotes, and Blake chose the Coyotes. That's his upset pick of the week. And I chose the Rangers, who won that game, making the score 2-2. Calgary and Pittsburgh played each other. Both of us chose Pittsburgh, but Calgary won. And finally, Anaheim played San Jose. Blake chose Anaheim. I chose San Jose. And Anaheim had to win that game. So Blake wins last week by a score of 3-2.
Thank you, Anaheim. I have the lead after 1 week, but of course it is a very slim lead, as you may expect. All right, so there's your update on our pick'em. We'll get more into, or we'll pick this Saturday's games, tonight's games here in a bit. But now we're going to review 4 games played in the league last night. 3 of them inter-division matchups, East versus West. 1 inside the division, the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh outshot Columbus 29-28. But Columbus, they win again. They defeat the Penguins 2-1. Columbus, in the second period, no goals scored in the first, jumps out to a 2-0 lead in about 2 minutes. 11:08 in the second, Scott Hartnell, his 8th, assisted by Brandon Saad and Cody Golubev. And Saad on the power play, his 6th of the season, assist by Ryan Murray and the captain Nick Foligno. Patrick Hornquist, 19:02 in the third, his 4th assist by Letang and Perron, was Pittsburgh's only tally as Columbus took the 2-1 win. Sergei Bobrovsky stopping 28 of Pittsburgh's 29 shots. Got the second star of the game in that one. So Columbus, they go into Pittsburgh and they win and Bobrovsky looks good. Your thoughts on that?
It's good for Columbus to be winning. They've had some struggles. It's bad as a Leaf fan that Pittsburgh lost because the only way we get a first round pick from the Phil Kessel trade is if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs. So they need to win as much as possible. At the same time, we don't want them winning the division now. They need to make the playoffs but lose in the first round. So it was a good and a bad thing. How Columbus is a bit of my secret team. I'm not a huge fan for them, but it's nice to see them doing well.
All right. And to the nation's capital, my nation's capital, Washington, D.C. The Washington Capitals and the Calgary Flames. Washington outshooting Calgary 36-29. Oh, but Calgary gets the 3-2 win in overtime. No goals scored in the first. Michael Frolik for the Flames, his fourth at 7:35. And 3 goals in the third. Sean Monahan for Calgary, his fifth, assist by Yuri Hudler and Weidman. And then Washington, back-to-back, about 10 minutes apart. Michael Lotta, his first of the season. And then with the tying goal at 15-12 in the third, Jay Beagle, his third of the season, assist by Burakovsky and Matt Niskanen. However, Monahan once again, his second goal of the game and 6th on the season, assist by TJ Brody and Dougie Hamilton. Minute 40 into the overtime period gets Calgary the win. Monahan with 2 goals on 4 shots gets the first star of the game, and Kari Ramo stopping 34 of Washington's 36 shots, the third star of the game. That one was a little surprising. Calgary's been up and down, I'd say, this season. Washington has been on a bit of a hot streak lately.
I'm not a huge fan of the Flames, but they shouldn't say they didn't see this coming because many people, since the start of last season, were saying that they were not able to keep up the pace they had last season when they had that fantastic season. So I'm not surprised to see them struggling too much. I still feel like they need to develop that future in net, which I think they have. They have a couple guys I think that can step up either next season or season after, and a couple more younger defensemen, better defensemen. They have a nice start there with Dougie Hamilton, but I feel like Calgary still has to do a bit more building before they're a serious threat again.
All right, and the San Jose Sharks travel to the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, and they come away with a 3-2 win over the Red Wings. 3 goals in the first. Tomas Tatar, his fourth, begins the scoring at 3:13 in the first. Back-to-back goals by the Sharks starting at 7:41. Melker Karlsson, his first, assist by Joe Thornton and Matt Tennyson. And then 17:52, Matt Nieto, his third, assist by Brendan Dillon and Mark-Edouard Vlasic, and it's 2-1 Sharks. It becomes 3-1 Sharks, 10:23 in the second when the captain Joe Pavelski scores his 9th of the season. Timu Polkinen at 18:08 in the third makes it a 1-goal game with his 5th of the season. However, that is all the scoring as San Jose comes away with the 3-2 win. Joe Pavelski, the first star of the game, with 1 goal on 1 shot. Martin Jones in net for the Sharks, stopping 26 of the Wings' 28 shots. He gets the second star of the game. And once again, Isaac, you seem to be pretty high on Martin Jones.
Well, I'm not not high on Martin Jones. He's shown that he's capable in net. He has many shutouts, I believe, last season and this season. I forget these stats, but it was something like, I want to say close to 40 some odd of his 40% of his wins came are shutouts. But I'm not sure that he's a good goalie. I'm not sure if I'd make him a starter. Yes, the number here is 40% of Martin Jones's career wins have been shutouts. So on average, uh, he gets a shutout once every 5 games. That is courtesy of TIFU by joining Reddit on Reddit for that stat there. Um, I feel like he's. I don't know. I wouldn't make him my starter if I had to build a team. I wouldn't make him my starter, but he's shown that he's very capable in net. So I don't think that's where the Sharks could be concerned. I feel like he's. I feel like he's similar to what the Leafs did with Bernier. Only maybe this time it'll work better, where a team picks up a backup goalie from the Kings and they want him to be the starter there and hope it works out. And it seems like it might work out for the Sharks. So I guess that works out for them. Like, that doesn't change anything I said before about them probably needing to rebuild. But
Yes. They're starting that at goaltending, it seems, but again, they got to get rid of Marlowe and Thornton and Burns in a couple of seasons, maybe, to fully begin it. But Martin Jones' stats so far this season: 13 games played, 7-5 record, 2.21 goals against average, but a .919 save percentage.
it's good.
Detroit, on the other hand, they've been struggling as of late. Glaring losses to Edmonton, especially. And the Red Wings are in a bit of a rut. Well, I say that, but looking at their last 5, they are 3-2, but a 4-1 loss to Dallas and a 3-2 loss to San Jose. So I'd revise that a little, and I'd say so far they are rather up and down so far this season.
Yeah, and they aren't in a playoff spot at this point. So start the rumors and start freaking out, even though we are only, even though they have only played 16 games this season. They're 8-7-1, which is good for a fourth in the Atlantic Division, but not good enough for a wild card spot, which is the second wild card spot is currently held by the New Jersey Devils, who have 19 points, who many people did not see coming, and I still don't think they'll be able to hold on to that. If I had to bet, I'd still put Detroit in the playoffs, just looking at who else is there, because I don't see any other of the teams that are outside, except maybe Buffalo if they can make another addition or so. But other than that, I just do not see New Jersey staying in the playoffs, and I see Detroit overtaking them. But at the same time, maybe it's good for Detroit if they make the playoffs. I mean, sorry, if they miss the playoffs, that would be probably better for the franchise as they want to start moving in better youth, because even though they have guys, not all of them are NHL ready at the pace that they're going to be losing guys like Datsuk, Zetterberg, Helm's going to be gone at the end of the season, and things like that. So I feel like if they are able to stock up on better young talent, then they'll be able to make this retooling while being good faster.
All right. And rounding out the games from last night, oh my, the New York Islanders and the Anaheim Ducks from Anaheim, California. The Islanders take a 4-1 win, outshoot the Ducks 29-25. 6:36 in the first, Brock Nelson gets the scoring started with his 5th assist by Kyle Okposo and Mikhail Grabowski. 2 goals in the second, Cal Clutterbuck, his 4th of the season, assist by Johnny Boychuk and Calvin DeHaan. Corey Perry on the power play, 11:23 in the second, his 5th of the season, assist by Ricard Raquel and Ryan Kessler. That would be the Ducks' only tally. As 2 goals in the third, both by the Islanders, both by Franz Nielsen, his 6th and 7th of the season, coming at 2:47 and 16:28. Franz Nielsen gets the first star of the game. Corey Perry gets the 3rd star of the game. But John Tavares, no goals, no assists, so no points. 0 plus minus, no hits, 80 minutes, 4 shots, 20 minutes, 11 seconds time on ice. He gets the 2nd star of the game.
That's interesting.
Let's see who is in net for the Islanders. It was Tomas Greiss in net for the Islanders, and he stopped 24 of the Ducks' 25 shots. The Islanders, we haven't talked much about the Islanders so far on this show, but so far to me it seems they essentially just picked up where they left off from last season. And let's look at the Metropolitan standings. They're indeed 3rd in the Metropolitan. They are 2 points behind Washington. Your thoughts on the Islanders?
They're an interesting team. They have a lot of good pieces, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to put them as a serious threat for the Cup yet. Now, I'm not exactly sure what they need, but I don't know. They're interesting. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other about the Islanders. What do you think about the Islanders?
In a way, I do agree. They rebuilded the best way I think they can kind of rebuild in the past few off seasons. They started with getting Halak. They started from goalie to defense to forward, which I think that's really the best way to rebuild. And they've done that. They got the big goalie acquisition, and they got a couple good defenseman acquisition. Then they concerned themselves with the forward unit thereafter. But I agree. I don't think they are a cup contender. I do think they can be a cup contender, but I don't think they are. I think that just may be the product of just being a really tough metropolitan division with Washington and the Rangers, especially. I think in terms of their player needs, I don't know of anything they really need to get in the draft or in the trade deadline or free agency. I think they're just a good team having to go up against better teams, essentially. And I think that's their main issue as to why they aren't exactly cup contenders yet. And that concludes the look at last night's games, 4 games there. We move into Saturday's games, counting here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 games this Saturday, 1 final. So 12 games to us to preview. We'll start with looking at the 1 final from earlier this afternoon. The New York Rangers in Isaac's Nations in Ottawa, taking on the Ottawa Senators. It is the Rangers hot once again. They take the 2-1 win in shootout. Both goals scored in the first. Chris Kreider on the power play, his 3rd of the season, assist by Kevin Hayes and Keith Yandel. and a power play goal by Eric Carlson, his third, assist by Mika Zibanejad and Bobby Ryan. 231 and 633 in the first time on those goals. None in the second and third. We head into the overtime. None in the overtime. Head into the shootout. Bobby Ryan, the only goal scorer in the shootout for Ottawa. Mats Zuccarello, and the game winner by Dan Boyle gets the Rangers the 2-1 win. Henrik Lundqvist, the first star of the game, stopping 22 of 23 Ottawa shots. And the Rangers, they continue to roll.
I think that puts them as a tie for first in the league with the Habs now, if I'm not mistaken.
Taking a look at the league standings, they do both have 28 points, yes. Not too far behind is the Dallas Stars with 26. But yes.
Yeah, they'd probably be in the lead. They lose to the Leafs twice.
Yes. Oh, they're host to the Wild tonight. Quite interesting. But that is your one final, the New York Rangers over the Ottawa Senators. How about this? We have 5 games between the two of us. We follow 5 teams. They're all in action tonight. Isaac, the person who likes all your teams, except Ottawa. His top 3 teams, they are in action tonight, and we begin once again with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, 6:00 p.m. Central Time, they host the Vancouver Canucks. Your thoughts or your preview of this game?
I have no idea what's going on in Vancouver. I have not followed them at all, so I cannot compare the Leafs to the Canucks at all. Like I said before, the only thing I could talk about is really the Leafs, and Reimer's been solid, so I hope that he can keep that going. I hope the team can play better than they did in Nashville. And overall, the only thing I really know about Vancouver is I've been hearing a lot about their prospects, and by prospects I just mean their younger players on their team, and that being Jake Virtanen and Jared McCann. Now, looking at the team scoring, Jake Virtanen isn't doing the greatest, but like I said, I haven't watched them, so maybe he's contributing more defensively. But 4 points in 13 games is a lot worse than I expected to see, just given what Vancouver fans have been saying about them. On the other hand, Jared McCann has 7 points in 15 games, so he looks like he's doing pretty good for himself there. Overall, I'm just this could be an interesting game because it doesn't seem like the Leafs and Canucks like each other too much, but then again, what team in the league does like the Leafs? So it could be interesting. Miller's starting. Like I said before, Miller's hasn't had the most success in Toronto recently. So it could be an interesting game.
All right. And your Western Conference team, the Edmonton Oilers from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. They travel to LA to take on the Kings. Your thoughts on this game?
Please be good, Edmonton. just stop being bad at this point. It's crazy how much the McDavid factor changed things, because at the start of the season, when he was getting used to the NHL, they weren't very good, and then he finally got used to scoring basically a point per game, which is crazy, and then he went injured, and they started losing a bunch again. So I'm just hoping that they can keep it competitive and hopefully win the game tonight, of course. But LA's leading the Pacific too, and while the Pacific's weak, LA's not that much of a slouch. So the contrasting styles of the way they play hockey will be interesting because Edmonton has a lot more. I don't want to say a lot more skill, but they play a more skilled game, whereas the Kings play a very heavy, hard hitting game. So it may be a physical game tonight, depending how McClellan ends up using the lines tonight. But um, who is starting in this game? Let's see here. I think if I had to make a guess, it would be Talbot starting, but I'm not sure. Okay, fine. Don't tell me who's starting. I think it's Talbot that's starting. I believe it is, but I cannot say for sure.
The goalie matchup is Cam Talbot and
Yep,
Jonas
that's what I thought.
Enroth.
So, yep, I think Talbot's gonna have a good game tonight. So that's my preview here that the Oilers and Kings are going to have a good physical game, and hopefully it'll be competitive as well.
And lastly, your number 3 team, the Montreal Canadiens. From the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, they host the Colorado Avalanche. The goalie matchup here is Reto Berra against Mike Condon. Your goalie matchup tonight, your preview of this game.
I think the Habs are going to win this one. I think they're going to win it sizably too. Bear is not a bad goalie, but Montreal's been playing really well lately. Mike Condon has been shutting the door for the most part. The Habs look like a motivated team when they are tied. So I think the Habs are going to come out swinging tonight, and they're going to definitely try to establish the mood early. And Mike Condon will try his best to keep the wins going. A good thing is, well, not a good thing, but Alexei Emelin is out tonight. I think he is injured, so that means Greg Patterin is in the game. Also, Brian Flynn is out, and that means Alexander Semin is back in the lineup, which is good because I don't believe they should have taken him out of the lineup. So I think this is going to be a good game. It's always fun when Patrick Law comes to Montreal. It's always fun.
All right. And we'll move to me now. We'll stay in the Eastern Conference, and we'll go to my Eastern Conference team, the Carolina Hurricanes, from the PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. They host the Philadelphia Flyers. This one, as I said last week, a lot of Canes games are like this. This one can go either way. And Philadelphia and Carolina, to me, they are one of the more up and down teams in the Eastern Conference, or two of the more up and down teams in the Eastern Conference. And it'll be interesting to see which Philadelphia team and which Carolina team comes out. Surely I don't expect the bad Philadelphia and the bad Carolina. That can't be possible, right? The goalie matchup here is Michael Neuvirth for Philadelphia, who has been hot this season, a .939 save percentage. And Cam Ward, who has also not been doing too bad himself, .901 save percentage. That one will be a good one to look out for. And lastly, the St. Louis Blues from the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis, Missouri. They host the Chicago Blackhawks. Of course, most of us know how the first matchup went, and 6-5 Blues win in Chicago, rallying from down 5-2 in the first. This one, though, I think is going to be a much different game because now, as I mentioned before, you have the new added dynamic of both teams having their number one defenseman now. In the last game, the Blues, they did not have Kevin Shattenkirk. The Blackhawks, they did not have Duncan Keith. Both were out with injury, but they are now back. Michael Roosevelt also back in the lineup for Chicago. And your matchup, your goalie matchup, as it was in the last game, it is Jake Allen against Corey Crawford. So I think the added dynamic, this one's going to be the game that a lot of people perhaps will be focusing on. And we'll go in order by time zone now. These are all Central Time starts, and we will make our picks. Carolina and Philadelphia. I'm going to go with Carolina because I follow the one tip of sports predictions. When in doubt, go with the home team. And Carolina happens to be the home team, so I will pick Carolina in this one.
I'm gonna go with I'll go with the Flyers on this one.
Yes, Neuver, he's a tough nut to crack.
The next game on the list here.
From the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. This one will be on the NHL Network for those of you that have the NHL Network. The Boston Bruins and the Detroit Red Wings. A battle of two teams that have been fairly up and down. I will go with Detroit here. I think the forward unit. I think the talent in the forward unit is greater on Detroit, and it should be able to lead them to a win.
I am going to choose the Boston Bruins. I think they will be motivated to win after the game with Colorado, and I think that I think they're gonna have a good game. I have a feeling about that.
All right. From the First Niagara Center in Buffalo, New York, the Buffalo Sabres and the San Jose Sharks. I'm making my lock for the upset pick of the night, taking Buffalo to defeat San Jose. Buffalo has had San Jose's number for the past few seasons, and I think now, with where the two teams are at right now, I don't be surprised to see that trend continue.
So who do you have in this game? Who do you have in this game?
Oh, yes. Upset pick of the night. This is my pick. I'm going with Buffalo.
Is it really an upset pick if they have the exact same record?
Well, that is a good point. Let me look through the rest of the games here. Ooh.
Okay, well, while you do that, I'm going to take the Sharks in this game.
I will still take Buffalo, but I'm not going to bill it my upset pick based on technicalities. I will save that for another game. But you have San Jose, I have Buffalo, and from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, the Maple Leafs and Vancouver. And we'll begin with Isaac's pick.
Oh boy. See, well, I'm going to use my upset pick of the week again. I'm going to say Ryland's going to have a good game, and the Toronto Maple Leafs will win the game here. Although, I also have a feeling that they're going to get killed tonight. But, I think they're going to win. So, my upset pick of the week is in this game, and I'm going with Toronto over Vancouver.
Yes. Let me see here. Let me look at standings. There's like 3 games here tonight that I need to decide which one I want to use as upset pick of the night. I suppose I'll use it for this one. I suppose I will do the same and use my upset pick and predict the Toronto Maple Leafs to defeat the Vancouver Canucks. Toronto, they're coming off of 2 wins on the road against Central Division heavyweights, and they're coming home now to face struggling Vancouver Canucks team. It's the perfect setup. It's the perfect recipe for success for the Maple Leafs in this game.
All right, so next game on the list is the Colorado Avalanche taking on the Montreal Canadiens. I have the Habs in this one. What about you?
Of course, I also have Montreal. Condon getting the start. Very solid backup to Carey Price. They're building some good goalie depth there.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I feel like Condon will be solid there, and like I said, I feel like the Habs are really going to come out swinging and establish the pace of this game. That leads us into the next game here, which is the Florida Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yes, from the Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay, Florida. This was the other game I was considering my upset pick on, but I'm still going to go with Florida. Tampa has been really struggling as of late, and Florida and Tampa, they're always spirited, tough matchups, and I think Florida should be able to rise to the occasion of a struggling Tampa team and get the win here.
You said that Tampa has been struggling lately, and I feel like that gives me enough reason to believe that they will break out of that slump tonight and beat the Panthers. So my pick of the game is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yes. Well, from The Rock, the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey, the New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins. A game I feel can go either way because of a up and down Pittsburgh team against Corey Schneider and the Devils. I will, however, go with Pittsburgh.
Yes, I like Phil Kessel, so I like the Pittsburgh Penguins in this game. It's as simple as that.
Yes, very much so. And the Devils' defense, I think Pittsburgh's still top-heavy offense should be a forward unit. Damn it, I keep saying that. I still think the Penguins' top-heavy forward unit should be able to take advantage of a not-so-great Devils defense, I think. From the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, the Blue Jackets of Columbus, they take on the Arizona Coyotes. Should be a dynamic matchup here. Two teams in somewhat similar positions. But I am going to go with Columbus for this.
I am going to go with the Coyotes. I just do not like Columbus' chances in this game. I feel like Coyotes will be motivated, because that is the buzzword that's been thrown around for all Coyotes games this season because they are the young teams, such as the Flames were last season. So I am putting all my eggs in the Max Domi, Anthony Duclair basket and going with the Arizona Coyotes tonight.
From the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, a Central Division matchup, the Nashville Predators and the Winnipeg Jets. I'm going with Nashville on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to also go with Nashville on this one. I was thinking about going with the Jets, but I like Nashville's chances in this one.
From the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, another Central Division matchup, the Dallas Stars taking on the Minnesota Wild. Of course, I'm going with the red-hot Dallas Stars. Ben and Sagan, they should be able to handle a bit of a struggling Wild defensive unit and struggling Devin Dubnyk if he is getting the start. Let me look at the goalie matchup. It is Devin Dubnyk, I believe, and Kari Lettinen goalie matchup.
All right. Well, I'm going to choose the Minnesota Wild. I feel like this will be the start of Dallas Stars slump, and it will begin with the Minnesota Wild beating them tonight.
From the Staples Center, Los Angeles, California, the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. And you mentioned it too, how Edmonton seems to how real the McDavid effect seems to be, and I think that trend with no McDavid continues as the Kings could get the win here tonight.
I'm looking at this game, and I already used my upset pick of the week, so I don't really have a choice. But I was thinking about choosing Edmonton, but I will choose LA to win this game. But in my heart, I'm hoping Edmonton wins.
All right. And recapping the game time starts again. Philadelphia and
Chicago, St. Louis? Because I don't think we did Chicago, St. Louis.
Oh, we didn't. From the Scott Trade Center in St. Louis, Missouri, 7 o'clock Central Time start, the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks. Well, I'm honestly going to have to go with Chicago on this one.
Same here. I'm going to go with Chicago.
Yes. I think Jake Allen, after that last game against the Rangers, he may have come back down to earth a little bit, as much as that hurts to say. I think he's might, in a way, have his clock cleaned by the Blackhawks offense and the defense, which will now have Duncan Keith back in the lineup, should be able to keep the off and on Blues forward unit at bay. Okay, and now recapping game time starts because I left that out. Philadelphia and Carolina, Detroit and Boston, San Jose and Buffalo, Vancouver and Toronto, Colorado and Montreal, Florida and Tampa, Pittsburgh and New Jersey, Arizona and Columbus, and Winnipeg and Nashville. They all start at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The 7 o'clock Central Time starts are Chicago and St. Louis, and Minnesota and Dallas. And 9 o'clock Central is Edmonton and Los Angeles. There are your times for tonight's games. There are our predictions for tonight's games. And with that, we will be heading into our closing segment now. It's 3:32 p.m. Central Time, so about an hour and a half show. This has been the BNI show. I am Blake. You can find me on Twitter. My handle there is @ShattonMyKirk. You can find me on Reddit. My username there is BTownBomb. And for Isaac, you can find him on Twitter. His handle there is @ShutUpIsaac_. And you can find him on Reddit. His username there is ShutUpIsaac. And for our HockeyCast, you can find us on Twitter. Our handle there is @OurHockeyCast. You can find us on Reddit. Our sub address there is OurHockeyCast. You can log on to OurHockeyCast.com for previous episodes of this show. Excuse me. And previous shows. And you can do that same thing on our YouTube page. Our name there is Our HockeyCast. I have to take a drink here. Okay.
Good one.
For Isaac, I am Blake. This has been the BNI show.